Basic Appraisal Procedures, page 162. The purpose of this example is to illustrate the number of factors the appraiser needs to consider in the assignment in order to arrive at the conclusion of the property's highest and best use. The appraiser needs to be familiar with the broad range of uses the property could accommodate due to its relatively generous zoning. In addition, the appraiser has to be well acquainted with market conditions and demand. Finally, the resulting land value for each has to be developed, along with costs associated for each option. Significantly, more work and competence is required for this type of assignment as opposed to the majority of the residential appraisal assignments. Now, when looking at basic commercial structures that could be adapted to multiple uses, the potential for conversion and related conversion costs must be analyzed. This occurs quite frequently. Restaurants are converted to shoe stores. Banks are converted to offices, etc. The financial feasibility of conversion, though, is dependent on the conversion costs. Here, the appraiser will usually rely on cost estimates for a credible highest and best use conclusion. Would a conversion be more economical than raising the structure and building from scratch? How adaptable are the existing improvements for the highest and best use? One occurrence unique to commercial and industrial properties versus residential property is the economic life of the improvements can virtually be eliminated by functional obsolescence. For residential properties, functional obsolescence certainly occurs, but functional deterioration usually causes the structure to cease lending value. It is possible some commercial structures will experience incurable functional obsolescence much more rapidly than residential structures because they had a shorter expected economic life from the start. Structures designed for a specific use. Large chain fast food restaurants are a good example. Many of these chains use prototype buildings, and the concept usually has a short life until another design is favored by the chain. Since this business entities prefer to keep facilities up to date, they often perform significant modernizations or even raise one design with a relatively short period only to replace it with another. Page 163. Consider the design of an early McDonald's restaurant. In 1953, when the restaurant began its franchising activities, the structure was a small building featuring the familiar golden arches and walk-up window. Patrons stood outside to place an order. A few tables were scattered around the building's exterior. By 1967, the company began replacing the structures with one featuring interior seating. So in this case, the original exterior service design had an economic life of approximately 14 years. The oldest operating McDonald's restaurant, located in Downey, California, photo by Brian Hong. Certainly not all commercial structures are subject to the rapid effects of business change and evolution as dramatically as McDonald's experienced in its earlier years. However, it is a good example of how commercial structures can become functionally obsolete based on the building's specific use and business trends. Another consideration for your uniquely designed structures is their recognizable relation to a commercial entity. How many well-known businesses can you think of for which you can recognize the business operating inside just by looking at the building? In other words, the design of the structure is similar to or could actually be its trademark. Businesses that have structures easily associated with their brand often do not allow another entity to use them without significant modern modifications. If we were considering the highest and best use in a market value assignment, conversion to a more common appearance, the physical adaptability and cost must be considered, depending on the land value and the value of the building cured. It is possible that a functional obsolescence exists that could be deemed incurable. Obviously, in cases where the structure is functionally incurable and it is not economically feasible or maybe even physically possible to convert the structure to meet current market expectations or requirements or another use altogether, the